News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Denise Pellegrini. Federal immigration raids sparking protests in Los Angeles, including at the federal building downtown, and the White House now says President Trump is sending at least 2,000 National Guard troops to restore order. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says on top of that, Marines will also be mobilized if violence continues. California Governor Gavin Newsom pushing back on the deployment of National Guard troops. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass condemning the violence, but also
one of the worst things you can do is have an extreme presence of law enforcement that gets everybody agitated and the violence actually escalates.
Riot police also fought with protesters in Compton this weekend as well. Anthony Galindro watching it all in his neighborhood.
All I can do is pray that everyone just gets dispersed as soon as possible and no one gets hurt.
And the unrest after U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement action across the city. ICE says it arrested 2,000 undocumented people a day this past week nationwide, including 118 in the Los Angeles area. Major headlines in the tech space this morning as well. Sources tell us Meta Platforms is in talks to make a multi-billion-dollar investment into artificial intelligence startup Scale AI, which could exceed $10 billion in value. Scale AI provides data labeling services to help companies train machine learning models. Customers include Microsoft and OpenAI. This would be Meta's biggest ever external AI investment. Changes at the U.S. operations for TikTok. We're hearing ByteDance is replacing U.S. staff hired near Seattle, with managers connected to China to replicate its e-commerce success in Asia after sales fell short in the U.S. Over 100 TikTok shop employees in the U.S. have been fired or left, according to sources. Amid confusion between leaders, the company is bringing in Chinese execs to run its e-commerce division. This is raising questions about its promise to distance its U.S. operations from China. Prospects for expansion in the nuclear power industry in the U.S. intensifying. Financial Times says Westinghouse is in talks with U.S. officials and industry partners about deploying reactors to meet the goals of President Trump's executive orders on an atomic energy renaissance effort. And Westinghouse is considering deploying 10 large nuclear reactors. Possible continued inflation, also a theme. U.S. Consumer Price Index report coming at us Wednesday. Stephen Blitz, chief U.S. economist for Lombard Street Research, says inflation continues to be a concern for a whole bunch of reasons.
Inflation is higher, is running, if you look at it on a rolling 3-month basis, we're still stuck in this 2.5%, 3% range on core PCE inflation, where it was under 2%, pre-COVID. So we're still higher, yet we're seeing lower hiring rates and things like that. And the Fed's leaning on the inflation side. Everything the president is doing, all of his policies are inflationary, not deflationary.
And U.S. stocks gained Friday after a stronger than expected U.S. jobs report. European Central Bank Executive Board member Isabel Schnabel says she sees a favorable moment now to strengthen the euro's global role as investors turn to Europe. Apple also in focus. Worldwide Developers Conference kicks off tomorrow with the keynote at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's 1 p.m. Eastern. A Colombian senator and possible presidential candidate shot and wounded in a Bogota rally. Senator Miguel Uribe shot and wounded at a campaign rally and has successfully had surgery, according to his office. His conservative Democratic Center Party released a statement calling the violence unacceptable. A 15-year-old boy among those arrested at the scenes with a firearm. President Trump says Elon Musk will face, quote, very serious consequences if he funds Democratic candidates who challenge lawmakers who backed Republicans' tax and spending bill. Trump says he has no desire to repair his relationship with Musk, calling him disrespectful and assuming the relationship is over. Trump also expressing confidence that the tax bill will pass by the 4th of July, and he says he doesn't think that Musk has the power to sink it. Meantime, Vice President J.D. Vance says billionaire Musk shouldn't be fighting with President Trump.
I think it's a huge mistake for him to go after the president like that. And I think that if he and the president are in some blood feud. Mm-hmm. Most importantly, it's going to be bad for the country, but I don't think it's going to be good for Elon either.
Vance commenting about the fight between President Trump and the billionaire CEO of Tesla and SpaceX on the podcast this past weekend with Theo Von. In sports,
here comes sovereignty.
Fox Sports with the call there. Sovereignty outrunning journalism in a Kentucky Derby rematch in the 157th Belmont Stakes at Saratoga Racecourse. In tennis, Jannik Sinner facing defending champion Carlos Alcaraz today at the French Open final, a match pitting the world's two top men's players. Yesterday, it was Coco Gauff defeating top-rated Aryna Sabalenka in 3 sets to win her first French Open title. And tonight, of course, Game 2 of the NBA Finals, Pacers and Thunders. At 8 p.m., Indiana leads 1-0 in the series. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Denise Pellegrini. This is Bloomberg.